Police officers meeting in the house of worship. Another devastating fire in Abaco. And community partners joining hands in a beach cleanup.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. The Royal Bahamas Police Force observing 178 years of service to the Bahamian people. On Sunday afternoon on Grand Bahama, taking time out to celebrate during a worship service at Jubilee Cathedral. The celebration coming as they commemorate the month of March as Police Month. Kimberly Mullings was there.
Members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force in Grand Bahama worshiping at Jubilee Cathedral in Freeport with Senior Pastor Bishop Godfrey and Lady Iris Williams. Bishop Williams began the service with an old-fashioned Bahamian song service. Bringing remarks was the officer in charge for the Grand Bahama District and Northern Bahamas, Assistant Commissioner of Police Samuel Butler, who says the officers were delighted to worship at Jubilee.
It gives us an opportunity to reflect on our past, re-engineer our present, and certainly cast the vision for the future. As we reflect, I wish to thank the Bahamian community for allowing the Royal Bahamas Police Force to serve as the guardian of security, safety, and enforcement of the Bahamian laws. It is indeed a tremendous task and assignment, but we could not accomplish what was accomplished without you.
ACP Butler thanking members of the community for partnering with police. He says Police Month is a time for officers to regroup.
Your atmosphere of praise has allowed us to be rejuvenated and taken to another level. And so we want to give God thanks for that. We describe ourselves as just ordinary, empty travelers, police men and women who always in need of a spiritual blessing. You provided really a dynamic, spiritual fueling station, and we are certainly happy and delighted as the police department to come by to be fueled this morning.
A moving praise and worship service followed, led by Minister Cara Thurston, and the sermon was delivered by guest pastor Dr. Delton Ellis, who encouraged the officers to remain faithful to God, noting that having faith in God is what will position them where they are meant to go.
You can't handle a little pain, you can't handle a little pressure, you can't handle a little persecution, then, my friend, don't look for anything major from God. Because if anything major is coming from God, trust me, you will have some pain, you will have some pressure, and I saw my name is Delton Ellis, there will be some persecution. But you got to be strong and resolute in your faith that nothing anybody threw at me will move me from my stand in a firm foundation of Jesus Christ.
Other members of the senior executive leadership team, senior and junior officers of all ranks, and civilian staff also attended the worship service. Kimberly Mullings, ZNS Network News.
The Department of Social Service on the ground in Abaco assisting victims of a huge fire that has left scores homeless, including more than 20 children. This coming 1 month after another fire in the very same community of the Mud. That fire was deemed to be a result of arson. The island of Abaco once again in recovery mode. Reports are that shortly after 1 a.m. on Sunday, police and Marsh Harbor Volunteer Fire Services received calls of a fire in the Mud area. Member of Parliament for Central and South Abaco, James Aubrey, says that after arriving to the scene, emergency responders battled the blaze and were able to completely extinguish the fire.
It's still a little early to determine definitively, but it looks like right now, as best it can be told, somewhere in the area of 30 to 40 structures have been destroyed as a result of the fire. The cause of the fire is yet to be determined. As of right now, it's too early to tell, although I suppose in the next few days, when they get a chance to examine the location of the fire in greater detail, they may be able to make a determination, but none can be made at this time as to the cause of the fire.
A shelter at the nearby Seventh-day Adventist Church has been opened to provide food, sleeping accommodations, and the basic necessities for those that have been displaced. Aubrey notes that some 96 persons have registered. No lives were lost during the early morning blaze, and Aubrey is thanking all responders that assisted in the efforts.
I don't think anyone was expecting another major fire on a Sunday morning, so shortly after the last one, because there are still people who need help, from the previous fire, and now that is only going to compound that issue. But I know the community and all the various agencies and volunteers are up to the task of doing all they can.
Now, you may recall that the Mud community suffered another major fire back in January of this year, where some 55 homes were destroyed. As in that situation, Aubrey notes that access to the area once again posed a challenge.
There is some solutions that I have put forward as far as increasing accessibility to that area in the case of not only emergencies like fire, but also law enforcement, medical emergencies, etc., because that is something that I know I have, as well as the powers that be have taken note of that the accessibility to that area is a huge obstacle.
When it comes to a long-term solution, Aubrey says that it is a more difficult situation.
You have the scenario where most of the homes are constructed illegally in an area where they are not legally constructed. So as always, the MO moving forward is prevention and containment. There cannot be any homes be allowed to be rebuilt in those areas. So it is a complex issue, and it's a broad issue that has to be a part of policies moving forward.
Also from Abaco tonight, police there are investigating an apparent drowning. Reports are that shortly before 11 a.m. yesterday, police were called to a local resort in Marsh Harbor, where the body of a Caucasian male was reportedly pulled from waters at the rear of the resort. EMS personnel responded and reported no signs of life. Foul play is not suspected, and police are actively investigating. In other news, two leading corporate partners trading their business suits for t-shirts, gloves, and hats and heading to the beach. Not for a day of fun, but to remove the litter that is casting a negative image on the island's tourism product. Italia Hall reports.
It's a partnership between a number of organizations to keep the island of Grand Bahama beautiful. The group began their restoration project at Barbary Beach. Trees were torn down to create a proper pathway, and litter was picked up by volunteers. General Manager of Alive for the Northern Bahamas, Richard Stanton, says this idea was formulated almost 4 months ago, and it was important to fix some of the challenges on Barbary Beach.
This morning we had a few local people to come out that are actually saying that they use the beach and they would like access from this road and a space where they could feel comfortable walking through.
Sanitation Services was also present to lend a helping hand.
We have a lot of casuarinas and big trees. There's a need for heavy equipment, even beyond what we have. A&C equipment they brought out of D8, and that's going to be a big help.
Vice President Henry St. George and Executive Director Rupert Haywood of the Grand Bahama Port Authority say everyone must do their part to keep the island clean.
We felt compelled that this was something that the Port Authority should be doing, and this is something that we could, using some of our different companies like Sanitation Services, come in and contribute to this and try and bring back this area to what it used to be.
We all have a responsibility, to look after our natural capital, our environment, and our city. And GBPA are, very thankful for Alive for joining with us and partnering in helping us clean up, an important asset, which are our beaches. And as you rightly say, it's a collective effort. GBPA, wants to take the lead where we can, which we should do. We have a responsibility there. But ultimately, we need all the stakeholders in Grand Bahama, which includes our licensees, it includes our businesses, it includes our residents, to work together to make our city and our beaches fantastic again.
Chairperson of the Keep Grand Bahama Clean Committee, Olethea Gardner, says there are some additional cleanup initiatives on the drawing board.
We'll just be doing more presentations within the school, making sure that we get education out there so that the students know, the adults know, and just letting them know that it's our responsibility to keep our environment clean. In the next month, April is actually observed as Coastal Awareness Month, and it's also Earth Day, April 22nd, so we are going to be focusing on doing another beach cleanup.
Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Natalia Hall.
Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition continues in just a moment.